So we're going to work on solving equations with variables on both sides. And what that means is both sides of the equation, of the equal sign. So we have a u over here and 4 u's over here. Now we know that we need to solve for whatever u is. And then you got to think about it. I was like, well, if I've got u over here and over here, how do I find out what u is? And that's exactly what we're trying to find out. So I would say that the first step you want to do is to get all of your variables on the same side of the equation, meaning you're going to have to move this over here or this over here. And to do that, you've got to think about what the variable is. In this case, what I mean by that is if this is positive or negative. If you look at this u right here, is there a negative sign in front of it? No. Is there a negative sign in front of this? No. Okay, so that means we have positive u and positive 4 u's. And if you recall in previous videos when we talked about solving equations, in order to move something to the other side, you have to do the opposite. Like if I wanted to move this 4, this says plus 4, so I'd have to do the opposite, which is minus 4 over here. Same idea with these variables. Okay, what might be really helpful to do is to look at the value of the variables. Over here I have just 1 u, right? U is 1 u, so I could actually write that in, 1 u. Over here I have 4 u's, meaning if I subtract 4 u's from this side, I'm going to take away 4 from 1, which then I'm going to have a negative u's. I'm going to have negative 3 u's. And that might be more difficult for some of you because you'd say, well, negatives, I start to get a little tricky. And so I would suggest you take away from whatever is the greatest value. So what I would do is I would subtract u, in this case, from the left. If I have a positive 1 u over here and I take away a u, those u's are gone. Over here I had 1, 2, 3, 4 u's on the right, and now I'm going to take away one of those u's. So if I were to say 4 minus 1, what is that? You should say we're left with 3 u's. Now I'm going to write with whatever's left. Whatever is left on the left side is just 4. And now I have on the right 4u minus u is 3 u's minus 8. That's cleaned up now. Now I still need to get u all by itself, so in order to do that now, I need to move this 8 over to the left side. Now it says minus 8 or subtract 8, so in order to get rid of that, I need to do the opposite, which is what? Add 8. So if you owed me 8 and now you paid me 8, we're good. So over here I need to do the same thing to both sides. That will leave me, and I'm going to move up here, that will leave me with 4 plus 8 is 12 equals 3 u's. Okay, that's still not solved though. I don't want to know what 3 u's are equal to. I want to know what just a u is. So in order to fully solve that, 3u means 3 times u. So to get rid of 3, I would divide by 3, but I have to do the same thing to both sides. 12 divided by 3 is what? So I get 4 equals u. And we can, of course, go back and check that by putting that back into our original equation. So if I were to write that in there, I would say wherever there's a u, put a 4. So I'd say 4 plus 4 equals 4 times 4 minus 8. And let's see if that's true. 4 plus 4 on the left is 8. On the right, 4 times 4 is 16. 16 minus 8, and of course, sorry, I didn't mean to make that confusing over there. 16 minus 8 is 8. So now I have 8 equals 8, which means that's correct. So my solution is correct. So let's try another equation here. Now I decided instead of just doing it so simple as just a 1u or a single variable, I'm going to put 2 and 4. So that way we've got to think about it a little bit harder, but it's still not challenging. We can do it. So like I said before, you would probably find it easier to pick whatever side has the greater value. And what I mean by that is if I subtract 2 from both sides, that will cancel out this, and it'll be 4 minus 2, which is a positive. If I subtract 4 from both sides, that will cancel this out, and then I'll have 2 minus 4, which is negative. And that's okay. You will still get the same answer in the end, but you will probably say, ooh, I like dealing with positives much better than with negatives. So I'm going to go ahead and do it with the positive first. So my first step is if I want to get the n's together. I have positive 2n, right? This is positive and positive. So in order to get rid of that 2n, I'm going to subtract those 2 n's. So if you had 2 n's, you take away 2 n's, you have no n's left. If you have 4 n's and you take away 2 n's, you have what left? You should say 2n. So now I'm going to rewrite what's left. Now here's the trick. A lot of people tend to forget this. This says minus 2. That does not mean now that it's 2 over there. If I started with nothing and I say minus 2, what do I actually have? So that sign to the left of that 2 needs to stay with that 2. So we have negative 2 equals 2n, and then what's left over here? Minus 7. Okay, I want to get n all by itself. So the next thing I need to do is not divide yet. I don't divide yet. I need to get all the numbers that don't have variables together first. So I have on the right side minus 7. In order to get rid of minus 7, meaning if you owe me 7, what do? You pay me back 7. So you add 7. Add 7 to both sides. Now here's a trick. Negative plus a positive. So I have negative 2 plus 7. That is 5. Awesome. And rewrite what's left. I now have 5 equals 2n. I still want to get n by itself. I don't want to know. Don't leave me an answer. 2n equals 5. I will definitely say that's not right because I don't want to know what 2n's are. I want to know what n is. So 2n means 2 times n. To get rid of that 2, since it's times 2, I would divide by 2. Now I come over here and do the same thing. We're going to have a fraction or a decimal. I know most of you guys like decimals, so let's say 5 divided by 2 is 2.5 equals n. And really quick, I'm going to plug that number back into my original equation to make sure I'm correct. I'd say 2 times 2.5 minus 2 equals, I'm running out of space, 4 times 2.5 minus 7. And I'm sorry, that's really messy. 2 times 2.5 is 5 minus 2. Over here, 4 times 2.5 is 10 minus 7. 5 minus 2 is 3. 10 minus 7 is 3. So 3 equals 3, which means we are correct. So in case you're saying, well, what happens if I do get a negative? I'm going to prove to you with that same equation that we do get the same number. So instead of subtracting 2n from the left and the right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take away the 4n's because I'm going to say, well, I like having all my variables on the left side of the equation. So 4n's minus 4n's, now those n's are gone. 2n's, now you take away 4n's, that leaves me with what on the left side? Negative 2n. Minus 2 equals, and like I said before, that says minus 7, so I still need to write that. I can't just turn that into a positive 7, and that's a common mistake, so please don't make it. It is negative 7. Now, I want to get rid of that 2, so I'd say plus 2 to both sides. Now I'm left with negative 2n equals, now negative 7 plus 2. Is that negative 9 or negative 5? It is negative 5. Now my last step, I have negative 2 times n. So to get rid of that, I divide by negative 2. And it's a negative, so I need to make sure it's that negative. Divide both sides by negative. That leaves me, now what happens when I do negative divided by a negative? That's a positive. So I get n equals, what's 5 divided by 2? 2.5. And like I said before, it's positive. So we actually got the same exact answer. For this final equation, I want you to make sure you pause and follow along, that you do the same thing and you understand it. So for this one, I see 4x plus 3 equals negative 3x minus 4. Okay, I like dealing with positives and I like having variables on the left. That works out quite well with this one because I have negative 3x on the right side and positive 4x on the left. Okay. I know that to get rid of that minus 3x, I would have to add 3x. And that shouldn't be too confusing because, again, that's the opposite. Negative, and then I would say plus a positive. That cancels it out. So I say plus 3x to both sides and draw that line down the middle. If I had 4x's, now I have 3 more x's. How many x's do I have? Now don't tell me there's anything squared because that's when you multiply. 4x's plus 3x's, I have 7x's. Plus 3 equals, now what's left over here? It's not 4, it's negative 4. Okay, I need to get 7x by itself. So if this says plus 3, I need to do the opposite. I subtract 3. I subtract 3 from both sides. That gives me 7x equals negative 4 minus 3. Is that negative 1? No, it's negative 7. Now I've got 7 times x. I don't want to know what 7x is equal. I want to know what just 1x equals. So to get rid of that, I would divide by 7. Divide both sides by 7. And now I've got a negative divided by a positive. What's my answer if it's a negative divided by a positive? The sign is going to be negative or positive? You should say negative. Negative 7 divided by positive 7 is negative 1. So x equals negative 1. And of course, we always have to go back and check. So we'd say 4 times -1 plus 3 equals -3 times -1 minus 4. Forgive me for that not fitting quite well. Now, 4 times -1 is -4 plus 3. -3 times -1, negative times a negative is, yeah, it's a positive. 3 plus, minus 4. -4 on the left plus 3 is -1. 3 minus 4 is -1. So we get -1 equals -1. So good job, it worked.